Man, oh man, alive. Is it good to be with you people? Hoping to have a great guest with us. Apologies for not making streams or videos much here in the last couple weeks. More craziness, man. It is nuts, nuts, nuts out there trying to keep up with the shenanigans that get in the way. And today was no different. Today was no different. Day job stuff, traffic, dead battery in the mouse, camera not coming on. Sometimes you just feel like the world is stacked against you, so you don't know exactly what to do. Just keep plugging, man. You just keep plugging. You do what you can do and try to get better every day. Try to level up. That's what we can do. That's what we can control. And that's kind of what I've done. Been reaching out to some folks here. Been enjoying. Are you guys like noticing that you will spend more time on YouTube than you do watching any of your sort of like terrestrial television or anything? Um, I just don't care, man. Terrestrial TV and shows, I'll ping through some of the streaming services and watch movies and stuff. But of course, as I've talked to you guys before, man, even some of these shows, man, these shows stink. I try to watch some new show on one of them. I couldn't last more than a few minutes. I'll have to jump back in and try. I'm not going to give up on that one yet. Like I told you guys like a week or two ago, I did 355, and I think I've got like 45 minutes. And it is so bland and boring and also just dumb. Like just characters being wasted, great actresses being wasted in just this garbage film. So I have no idea what the deal is there. So yeah, anyway, um tons of stuff going on when you do stuff. It kind of, I don't know, it just kind of gets out there, and you kind of like start making lists, start making notes. Then you miss a stream and you're like, wow, what do? I got all this stuff where I've kind of spent some time on it. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm kind of uh got notes for different topics that we can talk about, and pretty excited about being able to share that with you. So feel free, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. The stream is just not getting the legs tonight. It's kind of weird, but that's all right. You guys, we always do better on uh, the other side with the clips. And you guys have been with me for so long. You guys know my background with doing radio stuff and all that. That for me, I have stuff going on kind of all over the world because I first started the Pops channel. It's like a side channel, like didn't really do anything with much. But, when we were doing the dispatch, we had writers that were sort of all over the place in different countries. I had some folks that were working with us from Africa, covering stuff down there with us. Pakistan and India, we had a guy over there working for us. So I can talk with a second guy now. I get stuff from them, yeah, once a month, maybe twice a month, and they're kind of like generic press release stuff for us. We don't have an exclusive or anything like that. It's more like just a great connection, and of course, just meeting with different folks that you kind of get to know over the years. They came in with all the friends, family, church friends, family, professional relationships, things like that. So we jumped out, got the 100 subscribers within a few weeks, months. Wasn't very long. Which was super cool. Not gonna lie, super cool. But if you're out there, say hi. Feel free to jump in if you can. We would love to be able to hear from you, what you want to hear about, what you want to talk about, that kind of thing, and tons of stuff on the slate, man. Still want to rant a little bit about the Batman. I didn't really rant about that third act as much as I kind of should because it was still pretty new. I don't want to be a jerk, man. I don't want to dog on it if you guys haven't seen it because I liked a lot of it. I'm not gonna lie. The first part, not bad, but it falls apart. We had trailers. We had some movie trailers, TV show trailers. Disney dropping their stuff. Disney Boy, they're in the news like every day. I think they're throwing trailers together just to kind of create some distractions to give themselves a break from being in the press for all the wrong reasons. I think that would be, if I were them, I think that's one of the things that may or may not be going on. I don't know, but yeah, they were in the press. Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, we had Obi-Wan. You've got obviously some of this, political nonsense and all that kind of stuff's out there. So checking on my guests, man. I thought you were jumping in here. So that stuff's out there. We'll talk about that. Oscars. Does anybody care? Thought I'd run down some of the Oscar stuff. I've seen a few. Even I, as a critic, well, let me back up and say I do not consider myself a critic anymore. I do not really get press passes the way I used to, but I also do not pursue it. There is a lot of truth to phony reviews, sandbagging, propping up movies and stuff that's not worth it because of the relationship you have. Sometimes I felt, and my wife, I wish she would do Strangeness to come on with me because she would be my plus one for many of these things. It was so strange at times that my wife had nicknames for some of the folks. Like it was just strange, and yeah, could not relate. And would read their reviews or hear their comments and be like, I'm not sure we saw the same movie. So, so that was definitely a thing, but I don't get the press things, but I have seen I've seen a lot of films. Some, I wonder sometimes how we're supposed to pretend that we like these films that are nominated. Like, I don't know. Some movie news stuff we might get to. But yeah, it's been a pretty cool time being out there. Getting to know some different folks, different things happening, sort of on different platforms. So that's been pretty cool. I've been pretty fortunate to communicate with some different folks, trying to line some stuff up over the next few weeks. So hopefully that does also materialize. But but yeah. All right, so let me do the Oscar things. I think that is probably one of the least interesting things that I have for you guys. Hang on, I have like an extra window open. I do not know why that is. I'm boomering already. I'm not even more than a few minutes in. Of course, no one's going to be surprised by that. And I am having all sorts of issues. Do not care about different pop. I have all sorts of things happening on my computer. I don't know what's going on, man. I do not know what's going on. No surprise. You guys aren't surprised, are you? Are you surprised? But yeah, let me just open what some of these movies are. Because I could rail against the Hollywood celebrity nonsense, like just in and of itself. I'm just good doing that because it's just the stupidity and the lameness of who these people are. Because I guess is this our first official year? Or was last year a year where they basically tried to pretend that they were picking good movies and that the identity politics and third wave feminism didn't matter, because we know it's mattered for a while, but they kind of made it a requirement, I believe, in some things. Okay, so I'm going to run down some of the lists. Here are the nominees for Best Actor. That would be Javier Bardem in Being the Ricardos. He's an amazing actor. I did not see Being the Ricardos, but I have heard amazing things about that. It's just not popped up for me to get to. I don't know kind of what to do there, but it'll come around for me. Benedict Cumberbatch, who's obviously an amazing actor. Power of the Dog. Couldn't get through it. Didn't like it. Andrew Garfield, Tick, Tick, Boom. That one I actually liked, and I would definitely highly recommend him and his performance. Will Smith, King Richard. He should be the winner. And Denzel Washington, The Tragedy of Macbeth, which I did not see. I really loved King Richard. I think I guys have told you that I really like that. I think he should win. Supporting, and I don't know how to say some of the names here, so I apologize in advance. Ciarán Hinds in Belfast, Troy Kotsur in Coda, Jesse Plemons in Power of the Dog, J.K. Simmons in Being the Ricardos, and Cody Smith, McPhee, and Power of the Dog. I don't know who's going to win here. Power of the Dog's in here twice. There's some agenda stuff happening with this film, so it's probably one of those two. Don't know. Couldn't tell you. Don't really care. I didn't see any of those movies, even though I've kind of wanted to see a couple. Oh, well, I couldn't get through Power of the Dog. I just didn't like it. I didn't understand this sort of take on Western stuff. I didn't like it. I'm more of a traditional Western fan. Leading actresses: Jessica Chastain, eyes Tammy Faye; Olivia Colman in Lost Daughter; Penelope Cruz, Parallel Mothers; Nicole Kidman, Being Ricardos; Kristen Stewart in Spencer. I don't know about you, but the Being Ricardos thing, I didn't see this film, but I can say I've seen enough. I've seen clips and trailer, and Nicole Kidman disappears, and yeah, she deserves the award just based on that. I don't know about the other roles or performances or films, but supporting: Jessie Buckley, Lost Daughter; Ariana DeBose in West Side Story; Judi Dench in Belfast; Power Dog, Kirsten Dunst; and Anjanou Ellis. Again, I apologize. It's a supporting role. King Richard. That's the wife. She did a great job. I don't know who's going to win. Didn't see the other film, so I have no reference. There's a couple of great actresses in there. They deserve it in that regard. Animated features. Everybody loves Disney's Encanto. Anyway, Fleet, Luca, Mitchell's vs. Machines, and Raya the Last Dragon, which I did not like that film. I don't know. I really hope some of these no-name ones to do better, like Luca or Fleet. I do not want to see Disney take that home. A lot of people loved Encanto. I don't know. It's okay. Cinematography, costumes, directing. So we'll do, so all the technical stuff. Dune has got 1 million nominees and nominations, and I don't know why. So overrated. I think Dune is fine for maybe some Dune diehards, but no, didn't do it for me. Sorry. Wish I could say it did, but it did not. Not to the level that it needs to get all these awards. Cinematography was pretty cool. Editing, sound, those were fine. But directing, you have Belfast, Kenneth Branagh, Drive My Car, don't know how to say that, Licorice Pizza, Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. Please do not give Spielberg an award for West Side Story. Can we not encourage the horrible that is that film? So I'll even support Power of the Dog getting it over him. I actually hope Kenneth Branagh gets it for Belfast. Just because I want to see Kenneth Branagh succeed. I love his work. As I said, Dune will probably get a lot of the awards when it comes to the technical stuff. Hair and makeup, Cruella and Coming to America was included. And then The Eyes of Tammy Faye and House of Gucci. I don't know, man. Who knows? Maybe Coming to America can win. It'd be kind of funny to see something like that win for a change. That'd be good. Hans Zimmer for score for Dune, again, probably should win. But there's others. Encanto, Don't Look Up. Again, didn't get through Don't Look Up. I don't know. Is it me or is the premise of Don't Look Up like an agenda? Like they don't even try to hide the fact that there is an agenda, but I didn't even try. I didn't watch it. I've actually heard it was fine. Power of the Dog was not. I did not think that score was that special, but don't really know much about a lot of the other stuff. The best picture, though, again, haven't seen a lot of these, and I have no idea why Dune's nominated. There are 5, 10. We nominate 10 best pictures, and you guys put Dune on the list. Some of these others I've heard of now, but no, I don't know. No idea. Wish I had Mike Smith on. I should have reached out because he is a guru and expert on this kind of stuff. He follows like the odds and the trends and that kind of thing. But what I want to ask you is, do you even care? When's the last time you sat through the Oscars? The Oscars have been a fraud for so long that I'm not even sure why or if any of us are paying attention to Oscar. My first dose of the Oscar fraud was when I was a child. And it would have been the 1978 Oscars, I believe, right? So the Star Wars had come out and it got nominated. And I stayed up. I have no idea why my family let me stay up all that time to watch some stupid award show. 19, let's see. Yeah, here we go. Let's see. Lots and lots of nominations, but did not win as many as it should. And I, as a little kid, stayed up because I thought it would win Best Picture. I thought this was like this big thing where you could say, you know, a film like that mattered. And nope, did not work out that way. It was like a kick in the gut that I don't relate. That a film that it was just, people are lining up for years, would stay in theaters. I mean, you're talking about from 77 till probably like at least late 83, if not 84. It was just Star Wars mania. They'd go back into theaters. People would go back out to see them in theaters. You have to remember VHS and all that really wasn't a big thing yet. And this, and for those you don't know, Star Wars lost to Annie Hall, the Woody Allen film that I've seen maybe twice. I don't know. Maybe you remember seeing it more. Maybe you love it. I don't know. I know people do like it. I don't know. I think it's almost like a tragedy that I had to learn that way. That I was more of a fan, I guess, than someone who could analyze Oscar worthy or whatever. Anyway, didn't work for me, and I was just like, nope. I think there's several other examples. When did Chariots of Fire win? Fire. That was another year. But the Lord of the Rings, it took 3 times for that to come around and win the Best Picture. I have no idea how Fellowship and Two Towers were not more in the running. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, it's just really tricky trying to understand. And I go through other examples. I'll fast forward again to another one was when Dark Knight, maybe even Batman again, but Dark Knight came out, and this movie got like 5 stars by everyone. Like, everyone's given this 5 stars, and yet, and it had all these technical reviews, whatever, and it was not even nominated for Best Picture. Now, in hindsight, they were only nominating 5, but when you start to think about the films, you start to, scratch your head. So, but in hindsight, Kramer vs. Kramer won in 79 over Apocalypse Now, which is just shameful. It's just shameful. Like, these people are so out of touch with sort of like the magnus of what they claim their award is supposed to be for. I don't understand. I never have understood. Like I said, Chariots of Fire, Run 81 over Raiders of the Lost Ark again. Now, I don't remember staying up for that one and watching that one. I remember learning. I know E.T. lost to Gandhi, and Tootsie actually won some praise. But I think what was for me was understanding that, and I think this is where I think there's such a resentment now in Hollywood that they don't even want to pretend that any of their stuff is commercial. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. It's okay that it is. Do you have one that you kind of stands out to you guys that you can put in the comments below? That's cool. Let me know. But it used to be, went through a phase where it kind of straightened up a little bit. 91, Silence of the Lambs won. Unforgiven won in 92. Schindler's List 93. Forrest Gump 94. Braveheart 95. And then we hit, a few things. English Patient won in 96. I really don't like that movie. Not for me. Not when it was up against Fargo and even Jerry Maguire, which is the populist pick. But Fargo was just such a great film. Titanic in 97. Maybe there's some better films because obviously LA Confidential and Good Will Hunting seems like more of a logical pick. But obviously Titanic was this incredible, like more than blockbuster. It was just a phenomenon. And then you had like the bizarre 98 where Shakespeare in Love wins over Saving Private Ryan. To this day, I don't get that. But we had, think back, these movies, some movies were winning, and then it seemed like they had to grab the reins back, right? Because the Lord of the Rings, it took the 3rd time. Beautiful Mind won, then Chicago. And I want to say about 2002, because Two Towers is my favorite, and it lost to Chicago. Gangs of New York was also up, and I love that movie. I think it was really, really underrated film. And then you started getting into kind of the weirdness where they start to kind of grab the reins a little bit and say, no, we're nominating Milk and Frost Nixon and Benjamin Button, so Slumdog Millionaire could win. And you're like, oh, okay, hold on a minute, what's happening? And then starting in 2010 is when you get into the long list, right? So we start getting into 10 films are nominated. And let me run down the list: King's Speech, The Artist, The Artist. Oh God, I can't do it. Maybe you guys liked it. I can't do it. I can't get into some of these films. They just can't do it for me. Now, admittedly, they're nominating stuff I don't really care for, except for Moneyball. I loved Moneyball. I actually like War Horse was okay, but Moneyball was really a good film. Argo won in 2012, so I had one I was cheering for. I liked Argo. I still like Argo. I actually just watched Argo not very long ago. And then by the time you get into sort of like 2016, now you're into like full on agenda stuff starting where you have, La La Land, Hidden Figures, Hell or High Water, extremely overrated. And Moonlight wins over like Hacksaw Ridge. And you start to be like, huh? And then Shape of Water wins in 2017 over Get Out, which was obviously the best film of the year. Dunkirk was really my favorite film, but it's okay. Green Book wins over Black Panther, and that was where the outrage was. But I remember the push for Roma. You guys remember Roma? That movie was so boring. I couldn't even get past I was like, what am I watching? I was watching water pour over rocks in black and white. And I have to be honest, man, the last couple of years, Ford and Ferrari not getting the credit, Joker not getting the credit, 1917 not getting the credit, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. They hate Tarantino, so that's not going to happen. But it's just agenda films. We're already in now where like they'll throw in a popular film, like I guess Dune as their token popular film, but not a minute of my life. Not a minute of my life. So anyway, I see you watching out there. Say hey, Elisa. Always a longtime fan, big friend. Appreciate her. All the support she's given us over the years. I don't know. Do you even watch movies and stuff, Lisa? You should tell me. What do you like to watch? What's in the Lisa rotation of things that you like to watch? Feel free. Let me know. That'd be kind of cool to know, actually. Since I can't see you regularly personally anymore. Life's tough. Life gets in the way sometimes, doesn't it? Takes us away from the people that really do enjoy being around and getting to know. And then life kind of gets in the way sometimes. But I don't know. It's all right. She knows I care about her and thinking about her. So, anywho, yeah. So, flying through some other stuff here real quick. Let me get to my rant on the Batman, because there's been a lot of weird takes on Batman. A lot of folks haven't seen the Batman and they still want to talk about it and they still want to go see it. So here's my thing on Batman. I love the fact that Gotham City had this dark, edgy rain. It was like a character and deserved a lot of that. And I enjoyed the fact that it's supposed to be like second year Batman, so he's not really quite sure of what he's getting into. Hey, Dave Verdon says he just watched Ford and Ferrari. Loved it, by the way. Kudos, Dave. Good choice. Ford Ferrari is a great film. Highly recommend. Thanks, Dave, for your comment. All right, so let me get back to the Batman. All right, so I love the fact that Gotham City was basically a character. It was very sort of edgy. It was it set a great atmosphere, right? I don't diss the movie, the year 2 Batman stuff where he's inexperienced, he crashes, which I think is silly because he would have gotten hurt. The suit, the proto suit, proto Batman, Robert Pattinson kind of being on the smally side, playing sort of emo Bruce Wayne, but not knowing how to be Bruce Wayne. There's like one conversation and all that. I'm okay with all this if it evolves in a franchise. They're going to have other movies. Other characters were okay. Selena Kyle never really becomes Catwoman. Penguin's kind of Penguin at the end. They keep calling him Oz. So all of that's fine. And the Riddler stuff as like the Zodiac killer terrorist doesn't really work for me as sort of like a diehard of the comic books, but it wasn't the worst villain in the world until the third act. So if you don't want spoilers, I'm going to give a little spoiler warning now before I get into the third act stuff where I really get to spoilers. Most stuff I've talked about is in trailers. You can see the Colin Farrell disappears as Penguin. You can see some of the acting was fine, and all that. Okay, spoiler aside. There's a line that Catwoman says to Batman about white patriarchy, white privilege, and it's kind of like, what? What's happening? And people talk about that, and then the ending, because once you get to the third act, so what happens is the Riddler has finally figured out how to kill his last target, thanks to the Batman. And instead of the movie making any sense of what's next, the Riddler basically just shows up in a coffee shop, just basically just gives up. They were in his apartment. They know everything about him now. They realize he's a streamer and has fans, and you get all this sort of like meta YouTubing, right wing Trumpian sort of innuendo. Nothing I think is said. I think it's just off putting, but I don't think it was anything that bad. Doesn't derail the movie for me. But what derails the movie for me is his master plan is he's put vans around the city. They're going to explode and flood the city, and all the people are going to go to the sports stadium because that would be the only safe place. Up until this point, all of the Riddler's motivation was about going after politicians or high profile people like the DA who are all incredibly corrupt. They represent the worst of Gotham from sort of like a political stance and all of that. And I didn't understand why suddenly now all the innocent people have to die too. Like it was such a weird, there's no real connection there. This was like the Raj al Ghul, all of Gotham needs to be eliminated and we'll start over kind of thing. Or it'll just be eliminated because it can't be saved. But none of that was handled well. And they missed their boat because there's a comment where they kind of retcon the death of the Waynes and the journalist that was outing. I guess Martha now had sort of a mental illness and a journalist outed all that. Thomas Wayne goes to Falcone. Falcone, instead of trying to work it out, and it kills the journalist. Well, the journalist's name, Thomas Elliot, is the name of Hush. And there is one other reference to Hush, who is a famous Batman villain, a great story arc. And all you had to do was basically say the Riddler was working for Hush. And so you have this sort of like the Riddler's followers are going to show up at the stadium. They're going to start killing people. And you're like, none of that makes any sense because it was the Riddler. Like all of his motivation just changes 60 to 70% of the film. Maybe it's closer to 80. And then you don't know. But he was working for a bigger person that would have made more sense. And then, I don't know. And Batman's motivation completely changes. Like he's trying to say, I can't do this. It's not working. Now he basically becomes a firefighter / version of Superman. And it just doesn't work. Like it just doesn't make any sense. And the whole ending, you have like, cliche black politician who's basically female Obama. And she's so great. And they're going to try to kill her. And she represents something evil. And I'm like, well, no, she represents hope. I'm cheering for her to do okay. And you have Batman, saving the kid. And it just, things on the surface sounded okay. But then when you look at the execution of what it was not. And it really, really, really brings the movie down. The movie for 2/3 or so is really, really good. I'm talking like 8, maybe 8.5. But then the third act, it just creates almost like contradictions. It creates major issues. It creates all sorts of stuff. And it doesn't make any sense at all. Like who let this get through? Like I like the fact that the Batmobile is his first try. And it gets trashed. The chase scene that's in the trailers, all that was fine. And I don't mind Penguin's story arc. That's fine. I like all that. It's going to leave him in a position of power, which it should. I hated the scene in Arkham Asylum where he's talking to Riddler because they're just trying to basically do this sort of like subversion of expectations thing because you want to think that Riddler knows who he really is. And all they're really doing is trying to set up Arkham existing so they can have this like silly, cheesy Joker reference, which cameo thing. Ugh, it was. I do not want more Joker. I hope you don't want more Joker. I want to see them actually dive into the Rogue Gallery, more Batman Detective, better tech, learning to be Bruce. It's like we moved forward some, but let's not get carried away. So I can recommend it. I'm not sure I want to recommend it for theater goers because you're talking about 3 hours is long, but there's a little bit more of a spoilery review, if you will. I don't know how much spoilery I did last time, but that end. Why? Nobody reads comic books. This is the problem. Nobody cares. So I can say whatever I want to say about Hush and all that, but they don't even. I'd be shocked if some of these people didn't know who Hush was. They came out later and said, I didn't even know who Hush was. I would not be surprised. They were just talking about the video game, right? I wish I had a gamer with me. The Halo stuff, and he was saying, "Oh no, we didn't even talk about all that. That wasn't even point of reference or anything like that." So yeah, I don't know. It anyway, it is what it is. The Batman, it's still out there. It'll be on HBO Max on April 19th. So then I think you'll see a resurgence of people wanting to talk about it because, it'll be timely back. People can see it for free. They can watch it maybe in installments and won't sit through 3 hours straight. So I think you'll see a lot of that sort of pop back up again. Anyway, let me see here if I have any other updates. Just random comments. Thanks for streaming. Thanks for blah, blah, blah. Awesome. Thank you. If you're out there watching or listening. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Let's see. Had some emails about the winning time Laker thing. That was pretty cool. Glad some of you are enjoying it. Raunchy, you've been warned. Winning time is not for the meek, and it just keeps getting worse. And I got to be honest, I got to episode 3, and I was almost like, yeah, y'all are going to drive me away because you're not even developing characters fast enough. I mean, I know what you're trying to do, but I don't feel as invested and as interested as I was when I started. So maybe I'm wrong. Those of you that sent me those emails or you message me, let me know. I would like to kind of pull up or maybe touch on some elements in this Miss Marvel trailer because you guys know I've been railing against Miss Marvel. Whew, boy, I hate Miss Marvel. This comic book is unbearable. I'm sorry, guys. Please do not waste your time thinking that you should check this out before you go see this movie. Miss Marvel is this comic book series. Well, she's a character that has existed, I don't know, since the 70s. And she was actually Carol Danvers. But then suddenly they changed everything and needed it to be this new character because that's what we do now. I got to stop this. This keeps playing. So this is kind of what they do to bring new people in, right? They think they have to relate so people can see themselves. And Sana Amanat and Bashake Ali, Middle Eastern creators. I think Sana Amanat is a co-creator. This is sort of like a self-insert for her to put this character out here. But what's weird about the trailer, let me share this so you guys can see it for yourselves. I was just really like, what are we doing? And I know some of you might have felt this way when you watch this. There's not going to be any audio here. So this is Kamala Khan. I'm not going to pick on this actress, this little teenage girl playing, this character. She just daydreams. And this is how they kind of present the beginning. See how she's daydreaming, being a superhero, basically. And it sort of continues, click, click, click. So first off, I just want to say, I get it. Oh, gosh, so cliche. And she's like playing ignorant, more daydreaming, her own little worlds like this. And this is them sort of like misnaming her. So instead of being, so she's, I think Kamala, they call her Kamala, I think, instead of Kamala. Why is my vidIQ thing up here? Why is that stuff? I don't want to deal with this nonsense right now. All right, let's just make this bigger. Let's go full screen. All right, so I'm going to try and make myself small as well. Yeah, that's a lot better. They razz about her t-shirt. They call her by the wrong name. Obviously, it's a Kamala Harris thing because, you can't call Kamala, you're racist, whatever. But yeah, it's terrible. And this stuff, this daydreaming stuff, this juvenile approach to everything, there's a superhero thing. Devilish redhead, all the different people in the show. And then there's, of course, she daydreams about being with hot guy. And they all daydream about being with hot guy. And it's like, and then suddenly we're back to the thing about you're staring out the window all the time. So the comic book is all, and it's interesting because her comic book is not as bad as like others. I know America Chavez has this issue and some others where they have all of this bloggy stuff and things in the comic book. And I think this is their way of trying to claim that they're supposed to be there for teenage girls, what teenage girls want. But again, I think as I told you guys, this comic books, her series, keep getting rebooted. Like it'll last for 12 issues, they cancel it, bring it right back, and it's like over and over again. I've gone through a couple volumes now, and it is so obsessed with her race, her religion, being a Muslim, they use the term like brown girl, brown person, whatever, like over and over and over again in the comic book. I find her character always sneaking off, trying to be with the guy, breaking all the house rules, and total conflict with her family. This is not a pro-Muslim thing. I know that I heard to Cameron. He really had a lot of hope because he sees his niece in this and felt, that's how my niece is, daydreaming, wanting to be a superhero, pretending, all of that. I'm like, okay, well, is Disney going for the 12-year-old girl to fit 12 to 17-year-old girl market? Maybe. I don't think that's going to bring in new subscribers. I don't think it's going to hold anyone. I think it's going to bring a lot more bad press than it would bring in anything good. Yeah, I don't know. I was hopeful that they would try to break the mold a little bit. I don't know. Sorry, I'm trying to respond to a message, and we can go from there. Miss a lot of dare. It's always good for the ratings, isn't it? But I apologize. I really can't stand this whole. This is gonna be the hardest thing for me. Because I have watched all the Marvel, unlike everyone else. I know you hear all these people say, "Oh, they bash it, whatever." I've actually watched them. I got through all of Hawkeye. Loki is still the worst, and it's not one thing. Everyone's like, you're this and you're that or whatever, and I haven't taken nearly as much heat as some of these other creators, and they say things, but for me, the third wave feminism is definitely the goal, right? Loki, it's all about Lady Loki. It's gonna be in the Thor movie, right? It's about Lady Thor. In fact, she's called Mighty Thor and he's regular Thor. Same thing here. We just need a Pakistani brown girl to be a superhero, daydreaming or not. It would be nice. We see some religion represented in the trailer. We see a little bit of that, but we're not going to be getting. These are not pro-religion people. These are not people who are like. That would be a very conservative stance for her. I think that they will be careful to show Islam in the Muslim practices associated with their religion, where there be the dance and the prayer, in a respectful way in the first couple episodes. But the backstory of that is she's a disobedient brat. She's always sneaking out and breaking the rules. Now they do deviate from the comic book with her powers. I want to get to that. So this is the trailer. It's her cosplay, silly costume nonsense. It's her daydreaming. Just don't care about a lot of the stuff. It's just really, really bland. Some special effects stuff with her friends hanging out. Here's the special effects stuff. This is her seeing Captain Marvel. I don't understand how Captain Marvel. I have a timeline issue because she wasn't on Earth, so I'm not quite sure I understand what we're supposed to be seeing here. That's okay. It's the first couple episodes. They're not going to give us anything of any major substance or anything like that. And then you have just her. Here we go. It's not really brown girls from Jersey saving the day. All right, whatever. And then she finds these bracelets, right? So is this a tie to Shang-Chi or not? Probably not. It's probably more tied to Marvel, which was the original Captain Marvel. They basically skipped to hand it over to Carol Danvers. And they may tie it to magic and those kinds of things. But what's interesting is, for me, is they changed the origin. And then they basically change the powers a little bit, right? So we start seeing all this different stuff with some of the special effects. And I don't know. What are we doing here? Hang on, I lost my spot. Let me get to, here we go. Hands glow. She can make things to walk on. And then Who is this in the Suburban? It seems like it would be Shield showing up, but that's not who's walking in. Anyway, and then who do we get? We got all these really random scenes that I can't make sense of. Yeah, I want to show you this scene because this is the key thing everybody's talking about. So in the comic book, she stretches. So it's her body that stretches, very much like Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards from Fantastic Four. So her body can elongate and stretch and fold. And there's one scene, I think it's the volume 1 Miss Marvel near the end of that series. So it's 11. It's only 12 before it got canceled. I think it's 11, 10 or 11 or so. When she's like she's in gears, like she's all folded up in gears like this. And their villain, oh my God, their villain, the inventor, the Birdman, is a genetic clone of Thomas Edison, but during the genetic cloning process, it was contaminated with the DNA or the genetic material of a cockatiel. So he looks like the head of a giant cockatiel. So I don't know, guys. This movie's getting torn up from the floor up from a lot of the streamers and that kind of thing. I wish I could say I disagreed, but not a fan of the comic book. Not going to be a fan of this. Well, I get to have a great guest on with me. He is somebody I'm getting to know, his content. I really enjoy his content. But I can't relate to all of it. So that's why I wanted to have him on too. Expand our conversation, expand my horizons. Can an old dog like me learn new tricks? Probably not. But he's over 140 hours in Elden Ring, from what I understand. He host of The Week in Geek, and I enjoyed your stuff, man. The T-shirted one. How are you, my friend?
Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. Hey, it's your T-shirted historian, and hey, I am so sorry, my man. When you said 5 o'clock, I thought you meant my time.
Ooh, yeah. Well, I usually try to put the EST, but I think we went back and forth so many times, I may not have kept the EST in there to remind everybody. But yeah, I'm down in Florida. I don't know where you are. Where are you at?
Texas.
Oh, we're in free states, folks. Look at this. It's going to be a very easy themed approach to pop culture whenever we're both from free states, because it's definitely not like that in the Great White North where FS is.
Yeah, I thought that I still had 15 more minutes to go, and then I was kind of like, well, I just got home from work, but okay, here I am. So
and
sorry.
It's funny. It's funny that we didn't get on the same page because I had such a terrible time trying to get out on my own, and we're both day job hoppers trying to hold this YouTube thing down. Stuck in traffic, dead battery on the mouse, computer didn't want to load. I was like, okay, it's just that kind of day. And of course, I've had this kind of couple weeks where nothing's gone right. So, but I'm glad we get a chance to talk, get a stream under our belt, talk about some interesting things. Before we get too far, though, I want to throw it to you, man. Tell everybody a little bit about yours. How did you get T-shirted historian, the T-shirted one, as your nickname?
Well, as it happens, I do actually have a degree in history.
Awesome. Okay.
So it's not just a cute moniker. And the fact of the matter is I'm a big guy and I really find t-shirts to be comfortable. I've never enjoyed button downs. And even though, RPG Pundit has criticized me for wearing t-shirts, his opinion is, grown men shouldn't wear t-shirts, especially not academics. I'm like, well, okay, but that's just your opinion, man. So
I'm not growing up, man. I'm wearing t-shirts too. Actually, it was funny because I didn't do a count, but I can tell you this: I wear t-shirt. First off, my job has changed. We continue to pretend that we'll go back to normal, but I work in healthcare. I'm not sure if I ever get a new normal again. But they haven't reinstated dress code, so I still get to wear a t-shirt to work. My wife had done a count when we were packing them away because I have over 30 t-shirts just for Christmas, so I wear a different t-shirt every day.
Same.
So I am in the t-shirt club affinity. I don't know what we should call ourselves. We got to come up with aficionados. Maybe we're like a t-shirt aficionados. I love it. I'm a connoisseur. This is my work ones, really. Because science.
There you go.
Gotta love Muppets.
Yeah, I work at a job that also allows me to dress casual because we get into situations where it's not exactly good to have a suit and tie on when you're having to deal with some of the stuff that I deal with. But
no, I'm with you there. I don't think teachers need to be all buttoned up like that. I think it's silly. Let me ask a bit about your transition as a teacher. into being a YouTuber and a YouTuber talking about, because you're really into gaming and some things that I'm not interested, which is why I really enjoy some of your stuff. Got 140 hours of Elden Ring. We're going to get to that because wow, that's awesome.
I think actually I'm a little over that now. Let me check my
bet you.
current stats right here.
This is an amazing game, though. I gotta give everybody credit for everybody finding stuff, good stuff. I'm all about good stuff. Can we find good stuff? So
I apparently, as of this morning, I'm 154.9 hours into it.
154. He's a few minutes below 155. How did you transition into? Hey, listen, I'm going to do this YouTube thing.
Well, let's see. My friends and I we started watching Doomcock because we thought he was hilarious and informative, and we also discovered Nerdrotic. And the more we started watching the live streamers, the more we enjoyed them. And eventually, up on Twitter, a presence by the name of Fat Steven Segal made himself known. And as it happens, I'm an actual student of Steven Segal.
Oh,
the actual one. Yeah. Now, that's not to say, yes, I know Steven Segal personally. I trained at his dojo, at his Tenshin dojo, under his top student, Haruo Matsuoka sensei. And so I did train Aikido there for a while. And so, yeah, I got into talking to Fat Steven. And I said, I would tell him, yeah, I know that I've actually trained under the real Steven Segal, through his top student. And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah. He says, well, I don't know any Aikido or anything like that. He says, I'm obviously not the real Steven Segal. I said, yeah, I know you're obviously not the real Steven Segal. I know about the real Steven Segal.
Yeah. That's awesome, though. That's awesome. Because I think Nerdrotics has proven to be a gateway for so many folks, right? Gary, and now the circle of basically the FNT crowd, right? So then you have Az and Geeks and Gamers and a lot of the folks they bring in. It's become this like bubble that has exploded finally, where you rewind the clock and it was like slowly simmering, but then somewhere in the last, maybe right before COVID, but then definitely during COVID, it has like a mushroom cloud exploded. Do you agree with that assessment?
I think so. Actually, I followed Az for years
during his gaming time. Yeah,
because I first started tuning into him way back when he was doing World of Warcraft coverage, probably right around Mists of Pandaria. So when he actually when he collided with Nerdrotic and everybody else, I was just ecstatic, crazy about it. I thought, oh, this is so awesome. And the son of a bitch still hasn't shown up on my show yet. So it's okay. It's okay. One day
they might be getting too big for us. I don't know. We'll have to catch up a little bit, I guess. So all of the links are in the description there, so you can connect to the t-shirted one because it is some good stuff, folks. And then the weekend. This week, the Week in Geek was a great panel of folks talk about some different topics and just having fun, man. Just having fun, loving it. So, I think that many of us have kind of had that sort of gateway thing. I know for me, because I come from a completely different background of radio and writing and working for different websites and all that kind of nonsense. And then it's like, and I do remember the Last Jedi thing for me because I remember coming out of it, and it was a weird screening. I'll tell you, it's one of the weirdest screenings I'd ever been to. I've been with a friend of mine, and there was no noise at all. Like sometimes there's laughter and whatever, but it was just a critics only, maybe a dozen to 20 people, no applause, nothing. It just ends cold, quiet. And I was like, well, I kind of liked it, but as I was talking with my friend driving back, 'cause he was my +1. And it was like the list of problems just kept growing as I thought about it. Because there's no way to have a second viewing, right? You're just like 4 days away from release. You're supposed to write a review, and you're like, oh my gosh, this was a mess. This was a mess. So in hindsight, it's like, okay, it really was a gateway drug for me. I just kept trying to defend. Surely they have a plan. Surely it's $1 billion franchise. Billions of dollars are on the line. You're not going to screw up my Star Wars. You're sure. I'm going to defend it to my son. My son was out. He was done. My son saw it. And I just know over time, it was like one thing after another. And then I during the pandemic for me, and this is when I really exploded into finding all the YouTubers and things like that, was I wanted to revisit comic books and stuff like that. And I could not believe how bad it was. I could not believe how crazy it was. Are you shocked at all of that all the pop culture stuff we love seems like it's riddled with political and agenda stuff, or that it's so much more prominent than it was before. I don't even know how to define it anymore because it's just so overwhelming sometimes.
Well, I have noticed that it is it's kind of infiltrated every aspect of all of the fandoms and all the pop culture that I've grown up with. Seemed like it started kind of in television and comic books. I think Marvel Comics really is where it kind of started. And as it started infiltrating its way in, it crept off into the TV shows, then into the movies, and finally it is actually caught up to the gaming industry. So now it is in the games, and it's kind of like the current battle I'm really fighting the hardest, because I'm a role player from, gosh, way back in 1980. So it's like what, almost 38 years now, 38 years, something like that. So the fact that all of the spaces that I have enjoyed are being basically taken over, infiltrated, or otherwise just completely replaced by, politics and things like that is just kind of, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's like, I thought the idea behind going to go see a movie, watching a program on TV, reading a comic book, playing a video game, or even sitting down and playing a role-playing game was to escape from modernity, from modern problems and everything. The idea was not to, just submerge yourself in all the aspects of these problems until they're just, raging out of control in every aspect of your life that you can't get away from it. I mean, to me, that kind of just seems like a recipe for just depression on a scale that, would drive most people to suicide if you're just constantly being inundated by the message.
You because you're a teacher, do you pick up on the students? Like, how do they perceive it? Do they perceive any of this as being maybe weird or odd, or how do they pick up on? Because when you're just around them, and I know whenever my wife and I were doing stuff with the youth, we pick up a lot of what they're listening to, what they're watching, what the buzz was, for lack of a more boomer phrase. What do you have a sort of a finger on the pulse kind of thing about their perspective of some of this?
I wouldn't say. Well, I mean, that's kind of the thing. The kids, they don't have the attention span to sit through a movie for the most part. And movies are too expensive anyway. If they're watching a movie, it's because, mom loaned them some money. More than likely, if they're catching a movie, it's because it's on, digital, on cable or something, and it's something that the folks are watching. $5 a comic book. They're not reading the comic books. They don't care about the comic books. Heck, most of them have never seen a Star Wars movie. Very few of them know much about Marvel movies. They don't care. This is not their thing. You ask them about Pokemon, they might know some of that. I mean, because some of them play those things. They know about YouTubers, skateboarders, things like that. They have their own interests. They have their own niches, and ain't none of it the stuff that we're into. Occasionally you might find a few that are into Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, or just getting new into it, but they're not hardcore like we are. And at $45 a book, they really can't afford to get into it. So anything the kids get into, it is usually because the parents bought it for them, or they're introduced to it by the parents and they're interested in it. But they kind of have their own thing. I mean, Minecraft is very popular. It's mega popular.
Yeah, Fortnite, stuff like that.
Fortnite is massively popular.
Really big on Fortnite. They know about every skin, every little thing that happens on Fortnite. It's crazy. Yeah, still that and Minecraft, I think, are the two that still stand out as having a lot of legs. A little bit on Pokemon still. And Pokemon kind of comes and goes. Like, it seems like it's going to phase out. Next thing you know, that's what they're all talking about. New this, new that. I'm like, oh, okay. Guess it's not dead yet. But you're right about it. It's funny how Marvel, DC, Lucasfilm, Disney, even the Warner side of things, seems like they want to placate to this younger crowd or whatever, and they're so less interested than we were, even though we were broke too. We went through our broke phase, but it seemed like we always found ways to get something, to get content, whether it was like movies or TV or, comic books. And I know there's a price difference in some ways, but, obviously inflation and stuff. But reality is like there's just like you said, it's TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, stuff on their phones. Has that just, in your opinion, just completely replaced so much of what we were doing? It sounds like it to me.
I think so.
Like 60,
for one thing,
60% would be even for your, busy kid doing sports. The rest of their life is doing all that stuff too.
Yeah, it's either video games, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. They don't do Facebook at all. That's for the old people.
Yep, people like me.
Yep.
Where I have too many photos to abandon. I still stream stuff there. It's funny how people who comment, boomers like me, but that's okay. It's funny.
Yeah.
And so let's talk this Elden Ring addiction that's sweeping the internet, because you're nearly 155 hours in.
Yeah.
What sets this game so apart for you? Why are you loving it so much?
Okay. Well, I played Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. I actually started with 2, then I started with 1 and 3, and just kind of moved between the 3 of them until I eventually beat all 3 of them. And Sekiro. And they're all from a company called From Software, which their original entry into the whole thing was Demon Souls, which just got re-released not too long ago on the PS5. And the trend of the games is they touch on the old school vibe for me. The old Nintendo vibe, which is game difficult, persevere, learn the moves, learn how the enemies attack, learn how to get through it, persevere, win, get that little endorphin rush of success, and then, move on to the next thing,
Right.
And basically it's that same sort of game on a bigger scale. And they basically took everything that I enjoyed about the Dark Souls series and they magnified it, because you have super hard boss fights which require you to learn patterns or have special gear equipped or be able to call on people to help you out in certain situations, or just to know the timing and the moves and everything else. There's open world exploration. It is a kind of a living world in its own way, and that people are, things are going to happen and you're kind of in it. So there's that mode to it. If you get to a boss or something and you're frustrated, you can go out, you can grind up some levels, you can go explore other areas, you can do more content. You're not just limited to a single linear path. You could continue to go back and do as many things. I mean, I've lost track of how many bosses I've killed in the game. There's like 90 bosses in the game. I don't remember how many I've killed at this point. I've gotten far enough along in the story that I could make an end game run if I wanted to, but I don't. I want to explore all the content. I want to find all the weapons, all the special armors. I want to play all the little storylines out, because there are miniature little storylines that run throughout the game when you meet certain NPCs, and you'll play through their little storylines. There's just so much to do. And not so much to do in the sense of, I mean, there's a crafting system. It's very rudimentary, but it's not like, on the level of Minecraft or anything else where you just build whole giant buildings. It's more or less like just building little items to help yourself out.
Okay.
By gathering materials.
Interesting.
There's, you ride a horse on everything. You engage in mounted combat with monsters on overland battles.
Do you think it'll I mean, obviously we've seen a lot of really bad game adaptations. Do you see this becoming a movie?
I hope
TV
not.
show?
I hope not.
Definitely not in the modern era. Definitely not right now.
No, I don't honestly see it lending itself very well to film or television. The experience wouldn't be the same.
Right.
for one thing, they'd have to artificially add in a bunch of characters to kind of flesh it out.
Mm.
And I don't think anybody would really be interested in going to go see a movie where you're constantly having to watch the main antagonist either force his way through tough combats or pick his way through dangerous areas with traps and puzzles and stuff like that. I just don't think that would be appealing. So they'd have to artificially add NPCs and romance subplots and all the other dreck that makes Hollywood movies terrible. And with the current trend in Hollywood films, they'd probably want to make it some kind of a person of color type romance thing. And
yeah, we'd have to have one of every box, right? We had to check all the boxes.
Yeah,
there had to be a POC, an evil white guy who'd betray somebody,
a transgendered person in there. Yeah. And and it's like, and this game just really doesn't deal with any of that stuff. This game is more about just telling the story.
Video game stuff. That's awesome. Yeah. What makes you think people? Because you're putting your hours in, you're enjoying the exploration. Why are all the streams so big? What people enjoy watching? Some of these Elden Ring streams are 6, 7, 8, 9 hours long, and tons of people watching. Why do you think the appeal there is?
Partially, it's probably watching how many times people will fail. Because I mean,
what do they call it? Schadenfreude? Little Schadenfreude?
Oh, maybe so. Because I may
said that wrong, but
yeah, I mean, it's like the game is tough. The you died thing is so constant. Seeing people die over and over and over, and then finally getting through a tough area, or finally succeeding in beating a really tough boss or something like that. It's got to be fun to watch. I tuned into Mauler and watched him go through a section of the game just out of curiosity one morning, and it was actually kind of fun to watch. It was informative for me because it was an area I hadn't been to yet.
Okay.
But for another thing, it was fun to see him go through it. Just because it's like you're kind of getting an insight into the person's thought process and listening to them kind of talk their way through it, and probably fail many times in the process. And it's just fun. And at the very least, you can learn from those mistakes if you're playing the game and go, okay, so now I know what to expect if I get to this area.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Really, really nice. Yeah.
I have not been live streaming as much of my games as I probably should, for the simple fact that I honestly kind of find it a little bit distracting, because when I'm
you would have
live
to verbally talk, right? You're used to reacting, using your hands, whatever. You have to be able to communicate, because I catch myself, and if you listen to my video today, it was terrible, but it was kind of like, I this isn't working. Let me click over here, and I'm typing or whatever. You have dead air. I'm like, oh, well, that's really not good. Boomering along like I do. But yes, I would never be able to do that. I would never be able to multitask like that. I am not a gamer. Again, like I said, I am going to pretend I'm an old school Atari kind of player. I did not ever evolve. I never got into it. I did other stuff instead. But it is still it's a cool thing, man. And I like I said, I love listening, hearing, finding things that people like and that they're good. That is really what I want to see resurrected out of the last few years, because I can count on like definitely one hand maybe of like good films, and I'm like good films and shows and stuff that I can recommend. It's like definitely 10 or less. Like it's just so hard to find stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is really good. This is fun. The Elden Ring has moved into that category, even though it's not even my thing. I can just recognize the fan love, for lack of a better phrase. So that's good to get your endorsement. That's it's awesome.
It's fun. I mean, half of the fun is picking up a new weapon and trying out all the different moves and seeing how it works. And because the combat, I'm not going to say the combat is 100% realistic, but it is, it's fairly realistic in the sense that there is a little bit of strategy involved. You can't just run at somebody and start swinging. You'll die that way. You have to learn how to block. You have to learn how to roll. You have to learn how to parry, and you have to learn the timing of your opponents. And you have to learn a little bit of strategy. I mean, I'll give you an example. Last night, or maybe it was the night before, I fought an opponent who used a katana, or a pair of katanas, and he would swing in very wide arcs and things. And it would kind of frustrate me because every time I would go to attack him, he would roll away, so I could never score a hit on him. So finally, what I did to frustrate him is I just used simple strategy. Is like, okay, I pulled him into a tunnel where it was narrow enough that every time he would swing, his swings would accidentally hit the wall, and it would stuff his hits. And I equipped myself with a big shield and a thrusting weapon.
Okay.
Which was very fast, thrusting weapon. Like I think it was an Epee, which is one of the fastest stabbing weapons in the game. And basically all I did was hunker down behind my shield, let him get himself stuck in the tunnel and start swinging. And when he started failing his swings, he would leave himself wide open, and I'd start counter hitting him immediately. And took a little time, but eventually I took him down that way.
That's awesome, man.
That's kind of
it's like adventuring, man. It's like old school adventuring.
It is, and that's part of the fun of it too. You can pick up strategy. You can learn how to approach creatures in a different way than you normally would. Not every opponent fights the same. A lot of opponents have pretty big move sets that you have to kind of accommodate in order to survive them. So it's there's so many levels of strategy and adventure to this thing. It's there's no one particular element to this game that's so much fun, but it's just kind of like all these things combined together to add almost kind of a self-narrative experience. Because I mean, even though there is an overarching narrative to the whole game, part of the fun is just kind of constructing in your head, how things are going. It's like, okay, well, I'm here, I'm looking around, and I was like, oh, look, there's this guy with a sword coming at me, and he's got a shield. So I have to account for the shield. Well, if he's got a shield on his left side, I circle around to his left because I'm keeping the shield between me and him, because I know that that's going to slow his swing down. Unfortunately, he can also bop me with that shield, so I have to be careful and watch my spacing.
Right.
And then I wait for him to open up and throw a big swing, and then I get around behind him and stab him in the back. Yeah,
this is why it's entertaining, folks. That's why people are really enjoying it. So
yeah, I mean, I'm just talking about it. I mean, to actually see it in action is more fun. But
sure. So, because you do your weekly show, and I got a chance to catch a few and that kind of thing. Do you put together like a list of topics and things like that? You guys seem like you were just hanging out, being friends, and just talking about all sorts of things. And it didn't. Do you put much structure to it? I tend to be, again, I came from radio, so you know how it is. We're running on, 15-minute breaks and stuff like that. Here's one of your regulars there, Ironcaster, chiming in about, aren't you supposed to ask her gender pronoun before you stab them? I don't know. I think Ironcaster.
You know what? My sword is an equal opportunity stabber. It does not matter what your pronouns are. It will stab you in your pronouns.
You could etch pronouns in there if they start doing that. You used to be like, little Zer. I got that one off my to-do list. I got this one. That one, just go to TikTok, come up with a few more. That's good.
Yeah. Listen, please inscribe your pronouns on my blade with your blood.
Hey, Ironcaster, don't give them any ideas, man. You never know what these people might do. We don't want to get carried. So is there any structure? You guys just hanging out? Sounds like you guys a lot just hanging out, man. Talking stuff. Ironcaster, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, Ironcaster is actually one of my first panelists. He's one of the first guys I invited to my show to hang out and be a panelist. And at that time, when we first started out, I had a structure in mind. I was like, okay, let me look through what the week's topics are, and we'll hit these topics, in a very kind of timely fashion, and we'll try to keep the time, like to 1 hour or an hour and a half, and keep it shortish.
Right.
That sort of works, but the problem is sometimes these topics explode and they tangent, and we start having fun with these other conversations that lead to bigger conversations that lead to more fun conversations.
Sure.
And eventually I got to the point where, I felt like doing that was inhibiting the conversations more than it was helping anything. So my structure is very simple. If you pretend that we're all in high school and it's lunchtime, and you get to go sit with all your friends at lunchtime, and you get to, exchange food and talk about what a crappy day you're having, or what new game you played or what new book you read or whatever like that, just like you used to do back in high school. That's what my show is.
Okay.
That's
Pretty
effectively what it
awesome.
is. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, our show's kind of been like that. I've got my friend. We it's like we stopped talking too much on the phone, so let's just do it on the show. So Ironcaster, look, he's jumping in here. I was about to make your pronouns was were. I don't know. He's got 150, almost 155 hours. Ironcaster, squeak them out. These are all your guys, all your folks coming up in here. Their pronoun is now past tense after being run through. Yes. Yeah. See, I like your library. I see. All right, that's true. Ironcaster's bringing it. Let's see. One of the benefits of YouTube internet space is that we don't have those same time constraints like radio where you have to, you know what? I absolutely, Ironcaster. I'll just ramble. Like I did a little video on Batman, and then I was thinking about it for like a couple days. I didn't want to sit through 3 hours again. I don't mind paying $5 this time. So I saw it for free. So I'll see it for $5. So I was like, I'll see it for $5. I'm like, I don't want to sit through 3 hours because the third act was so bad for me. So I'll wait till it's on HBO Max. But I'm like, I have more to say. So I just rambled earlier for another 10 minutes. I'll throw that up there. I don't really care as much. It is liberating. But I was always like, I was rebellious. I was not a good movie critic. I was just like, not, I don't know. You ever been to a movie screening, like an advanced screening?
Me and myself?
Yeah.
No, I did get in kind of like on the early preview night for most recently Endgame. And the reason is because the year before Infinity War was coming out, and I was set to go see it with my date on Friday night. And some kid had seen the film like the day before, like either through, Russian hacking or whatever. I don't know.
Okay.
But they had somehow acquired a copy and watched it all the way through. And he gleefully spoiled it for me.
Oh, no. Come on.
I was so pissed off throughout that entire movie. So the next year I said, okay, I'm going to get the jump on him. I'm going to catch this. I'm going to catch this at the absolute earliest possible showing and beat him to the punch. And sure enough, I did. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
It was awesome.
Folks, if you check your listings, they're showing this stuff now. Thursday night is the norm if you want to catch early screenings. But I know with like Batman, they did IMAX and they did a shareholder, an AMC shareholder, which was like 2 days before and stuff like that. They give out free gimmicks and nonsense like that. So it's not just really critic review stuff. They will actually do screenings early. I checked for Morbius. I didn't see anything early. So it's not all of them and all the companies, but keep an eye out. It's a weird experience, man. It is a weird experience being. The weirdest ones are daytime screenings that are only for press. Because you're like, there's 4 of us. It's really strange. It's like usually the small indies, Amazon products were like that. Some of those, and it's just weird. No one really talks. You're not anywhere near anybody, so it's a little weird. So
yeah, I always get a little bit irritated whenever people have gotten a hold of these products before I have, because day one when Elden Ring released. They were already putting up videos with tips and all these other things, and I'm kind of like,
ruin it before we could get to it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, wow. It's nice to know that you guys had this much time to go through the game and fill in all these tips and everything, and so.
Well, I didn't know Ironcaster and Squeaky could make it. We could have brought them all up in here and have an old follow up, almost like a knockoff sequel to your show. Just talk about nonsense for who knows how long.
You can always invite them if you want.
I don't want to steal your thunder. We can throw them up in there. I don't know that I have all their stuff on DM and whatever. I'm not great at multitasking that kind of stuff anyway. So, but they're more than welcome to hop on up into here. So I'll tell you my favorite early screening, press screening is my wife. My wife would be my +1. So over time, you're in the room. So you have like. So I'm in the Tampa Bay area market at the time. And so I've got like the St. Pete Times writer. I've got the Channel 44, the independent channel TV guy. You got this person, they're there all the time, right?
Mhm.
My wife's my plus one, and there's one that comes all the time. He's an overweight man. He's always super nice, t-shirt and sweatpants. And over time, I realized we didn't know his name, and we would just call him Captain Sweatpants, which of course, obviously, is a Big Bang Theory knockoff. But anyway, he's Captain Sweatpants. So fast forward probably about a year, probably dozens of screenings with Captain Sweatpants being there. Again, polite, jovial interactions. And one time, and it was like a female rom-com centric kind of film, he actually brings a guest. And she's real, she's heavier too, but she's got a pretty blouse on. I said, honey, look, Miss Captain Sweatpants has brought a date. And he's like, I wonder if it's Mrs. Sweatpants. So they come around trying to just head nods. We weren't anywhere close to each other. I kid you not, man. She had on sweatpants too. Little hard to keep a straight face when Mr. Sweatpants is bringing Mrs. Sweatpants. But yeah, my wife could not believe it. There was so much. She's like, I am in an alternate universe, a sweatband wearing movie reviewers next to my nerdy husband. What has happened? Yep, that's my life. So,
well, yeah. I honestly think there is a trend towards bucking formality in all aspects of our jobs and our lives. Language. Nobody speaks informal language anymore. Most kids these days, if you text them a message or something, or you write a message to them, they view proper grammar and the use of periods, colons, and all that sort of
punctuation
stuff.
And abbreviations. Yeah. That's all normal stuff. Yeah.
Well, that's all normal stuff to us. To them, it is considered to be aggressive and somewhat hostile.
I did not know that. Ooh, well, I must come across terrible to my.
I'm sure I do. Sometimes. I'm sure I do too. But that's the thing, and I had to ask a friend of mine who's a millennial about that, and he said, "Well, if you think about it, most of the time when people are writing to you, and it's written with very formal language and correctly punctuated and all this other stuff, it's usually to chew you out."
Yeah, that's true. Good point. That's what, I've never thought of that, and I am terrible. First off, I have to admit I am a typo. I need a proofreader. My wife always says you need a proofreader. She's like OCD about all of it. I need to share this with her because I don't think we really thought of it that way. I wonder if our kids get really ticked off because we're constantly using proper English and we don't use abbreviations and things like that. So Ironcaster again, he chimes, it's only a matter of time before we've moved the early screenings up and up all the way back around to Friday. I got to be honest, Ironcaster, I'm shocked that some studios don't constantly move their dates to cheat a little extra money here and there. I don't know how many times I can tell you about a movie that comes out on Friday when coming out on Wednesday would have got them some extra bucks. It really was not. I mean, I know they got a lot of coordination that's going on, moving prints and things like that, but yeah. And of course on the messaging, he chimes in and says, yeah, punctuation takes a lot of time. Okay, yeah, that's true. I will say I'm not as big a deal about punctuation. It's I'll spell out you. My kids will just use the letter U. Y.
Right.
Letter Y. Yeah. Yeah. So what, if you don't mind me asking, what age group do you teach?
Well, I deal with middle school.
Middle school. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because I definitely had more experience with like the high schoolers. I didn't really do too much with middle schoolers, so it's pretty awesome. So it's funny because I talked about doing the YouTube thing, and it was a lot about. I don't want to say I'm replicating the radio show thing, but it's like I kind of like have general topics, and it's funny how when I watch shows like yours, it was like you guys will pound through something as fast as it comes in, it's gone. I'm like, well, so much for that. It's really it just amuses me on how diverse and interesting YouTube is with the way people approach things. I know you talked about the lunch table conversation thing, and that's really pretty cool. Because that's how we all talk and interact. And I think that's what your show kind of brought to my attention anyway. That's why I reached out. It's like, this is kind of fun. I enjoyed that. So that was good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, even, Culture Casino, which is where I met you, his show is probably more formal than mine because he has definite things that he likes to hit. He's a little bit more cautious of his use of language and things like that. He's a little bit more professional than I am. And I don't know, maybe that's why he has a bigger audience. I don't know. But
my audience isn't there, but I definitely try to do the PG-13 thing only because, and again, it's trying not to eliminate, I'll say family members and friends of the show that have been with me for so long. So it's like, don't exclude the 12-year-old listening to it on their phones. Their parents don't get trouble. So it's a little bit of that. So that's probably why I stay that way. But I really don't edit anybody. I know I posted an old radio interview I just did with Titus Welliver. He cursed in one of them. I don't know if that's the one that's up or not, but it's like, I'm not editing it out. It happened. I know on radio they blip it or whatever, but I didn't do that. It just happens on post. But yeah, I don't really care too much. I mean, people do what they got to do. So
I actually know who Titus Welliver is. I saw him way back when he was Cohagen. The first time I ever saw him, he was Cohagen back on Kindred.
Oh yeah, that's an old reference. He's been in so many things, man.
But he was young back then.
Yeah, that's an old school reference. Yeah, it is. So yeah, but I mean, it was funny because I had him twice. And they were only like 20 minutes, but I think one of them, I don't know what happened I think he was up against a break. So I actually was on the phone with him for like 10 extra minutes. And I wish I'd recorded all of that too. But yeah, live and learn. So Squeaka chiming in. The Oxford comma. I don't understand the reference. You're going to tell me. What is the carrot here with the Oxford comma?
I think she's saying she loves the Oxford comma.
Oh, it's a heart. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a heart.
All right. Oxford comma. All right, Squeaka. All right. So did you see, I know I've mentioned it several times, all these new trailers and things like that? I have this sort of like theory that Disney's drama in the news and all that, it's almost like it seems like we went through these periods where they don't tell us anything about all their shows and movies or whatever. Now it seems like all of a sudden, every couple of days, we've got Obi-Wan, then we had Miss Marvel, then we have a Moon Knight, then it's almost like anything to do to get the news cycle and the fans off their back with all the political nonsense that they jumped in the pool about.
That may be part of it. Another thing may just be that they are trying to hit specific times.
Mm-hmm.
Spring break just ended.
Yeah, that's true
for most people. So the thing is, it's like they know that now people are gonna have to sit their nose to the grindstone and grind out about another 3 or 4 months of being in school or whatever like that, if you're not already just a working guy. But since we're assuming that they're aiming for younger guys, college age, that kind of stuff, and that gives you something to do and look forward to kind of make your nights to make it through your tough nights. It's like, hey, you take a break from studying, watch Moon Knight or something, or take a date out and go see, Thor, Love and Thunder.
Oh, God help us. I know. Yeah. Doctor Strange.
Thor. Yeah.
Do you have hopes? Where are you at on this post-Endgame Marvel universe?
I'll be honest. Haven't watched a single movie in the post-Endgame universe.
All right. Well, that's time well saved. I will tell you. All 3 of them were terrible. Spider-Man wasn't, but that's not really the same universe exactly. I can recommend Spider-Man. I can't recommend the 3 Disney Marvel films. Yeah, brutal. Why the turnoff though for you?
Well, timing was kind of part of it, but money is part of it, and just kind of a lack of interest. I mean, it's like, okay, Black Widow, the timing on it was just terrible. Mm-hmm. They blew through Black Widow to put Captain Marvel in there, and that was a terrible, terrible mistake. If they had Black Widow in there instead of Captain Marvel, we could have at least had some background on that character and everything just before she had her swan song in Endgame, and it would have just made that even more of an impact. Although, let's be honest, some of that film was not that great anyway from what I've seen.
Yeah, well, Black Widow was a mess. I mean, I railed against all 3 of them. Eternals was the absolute worst. I said this before on a video where I basically like 20 to 30 minutes in kind of did the, am I falling asleep in a Marvel movie?
Yeah, I've heard it was
brutal.
I've heard it was the Nocturnals because it was putting everybody to sleep, and it looked boring from the trailers. I mean, when I took a look at the casting on that, I'm kind of like, wow, you picked the most boring ass actor from the entire Game of Thrones series to head up this film. And
well, they're not really in charge. It was
yeah,
the
Whammon.
Jim Chan from Humans. You ever seen that show or know anything about that show?
I've got all 3 seasons here. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Humans.
Yeah.
I like Gemma Chan.
You know how robotic she looked though? Yeah, not a lot changed for this role, including their first sex scene. It was like, oh, it's pretty uninteresting, I guess. But it was 3 films that you didn't have to do a whole lot to know. Did you read much comic books at all? Were you into comic books much?
Hugely.
Yeah. Was Eternals on your radar screen? Because it really wasn't on my radar. Yeah. I mean, I know of it. I know of Kirby, but I mean, I remember.
I had the 12-issue limited series from Marvel from way back in the day, from back in the 80s. So yeah, I was very familiar with Eternals and the source material. And oh my, if I had necromantic powers of some sort, I would bring back Jack Kirby. And just turn him loose on Marvel Studios and tell him, like, look what they did to all of your creations.
But we would really want Jim Shooter in charge, wouldn't we? Wouldn't Jim Shooter just grab them by the collars and you're all fired? We're all fired. You're all fired, all of you.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, what Jim Shooter's like, what, 6'4", so 6'5", so yeah,
they would just run.
Yeah, they would.
I was just shocked that that's what they picked. I mean, I know now, obviously, the story of, we picked it for this reason and gender swapping and race swapping and all the other nonsense they did. But I remember when it was announced, it was like, really, Eternals? Like I'm not trying to say I didn't like it, and of course the art, anything with Kirby's art, but it was just sort of like this dotted line in the Marvel, comic book universe that wasn't really integral, and it was just a weird move. I expected them to more elaborate on like more of the cosmic elements that were tied to the Guardians of the Galaxy more directly, since that had already proven to be successful. But it was weird, and it sure didn't translate. And I don't know what they do now because they made a bigger mess because nobody cares.
Well, not only that, but I mean, I think they probably addressed it since it was like the biggest elephant in the room. But my constant thing was kind of like, you guys are supposed to be the defenders of humanity, and yet Thanos snapped and destroyed half the universe, and you did nothing.
Yeah, we weren't really allowed. There was just so many dumb excuses. And then, of course, the biggest thing is, woman had to save the day, which makes no sense because we have an after credit scene where, Jon Snow starts to reach for the sword. He could have become Black Knight. And then you had that love triangle. And of course, we had to have evil Superman versus woman. And Black Knight coming and trying to side with her now. She could still save the day, but you would have had a story that would have made more sense, introduce the Black Knight. You could have saved this in some elements, but it's clear they have no interest in doing that. This is third wave feminism to its core, its root and branch. So really frustrating. Have you watched any of their TV shows or Disney Plus product, whatever?
Actually, I started watching WandaVision. I think I was like 2 episodes from the end and said, nah. But
you missed the end. Thank God you missed the end.
I heard the ending was awful. And from everything I've seen, it's awful. I mean, they basically absolved her of all her crimes, despite the fact that she held an entire town hostage.
It was worse than just holding them hostage. There was a scene or two where they were talking about, please release me. It hurts. Like my children are trapped. It was like there's really almost like human torture almost that was alluded to, and it's just like. And then it's weird. They didn't just let her go. There's a line by the Monica Rambeau character. It's like, well, they'll never know what you gave up or how you sacrificed. I forget how it's worded, but it was just like, okay, we've turned this whole, the heroes are really villain thing. We've kind of like ramped that up on steroids. It was terrible.
I can't help but notice that they brought that up as a point of contention in Doctor Strange. Oh, you did this, but I did this, and I'm a villain. And I'm kind of like,
but you walked away.
Yeah,
I know.
They let you go, didn't they?
It's been interesting because I've been able to use at least some of the Disney Plus shows as a way to kind of wake up some of the normies that are around my work or friend circles where it's like, hey, what do you think of this? And they say, oh, I loved it. And I'm like, really? What do you think about that? And I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. Never thought about that. Loki was the biggest one because I hated Loki. I completely hated Loki. And a lot of people will come at me like, I like Loki. And I'm like, what about this? Oh, I never thought about that. So I don't know. It's weird seeing the Disney Marvel thing just consume so much oxygen out of the room for pop culture at large. What do you do to kind of consume other stuff, or how do you find joy in
I
your collecting
think they
and
have.
consumption?
I think they've kind of painted themselves into a corner because with Endgame kind of ending their first 21 movie run, their 10-year run, and all those actors having to retire out of their parts, et cetera, they are just desperate to do something new, and for whatever reason, the magic is just not there. And I don't know if it's the casting or the writing or the direct or all of it together, but it is just. I mean, okay, I'm gonna be honest. The first 21 Marvel movies, not every single one of them was a hit. Okay, I mean, we had Thor: The Dark World. That was not very good. The first Thor was just okay.
To quote Gary, the Space Karen movie. It's an
Yeah.
abomination. Can't watch it again. I can't get through it. Yeah, I know. You're absolutely right. I mean, there's definitely tiers, right, of some good and bad and ugly.
Yeah.
But these Disney Plus shows are being written by novices. They're being held by people. They have no credits. Like the Rick and Morty writing staff have been sort of like transported over to the Disney lot to make product, and you're like, they admit that they don't even read the comic. They have no idea. What did the one creator say? I don't know if it was the showrunner or not, but she basically said, "Oh, I didn't even know who Mephisto was until it was brought up in a press junket." Right, or something like that. I'm like, okay, listen, I understand you're not going to do Mephisto. You can't do Mephisto, whatever, but you didn't even know? Like, did you read the story that is related to the story that you're trying to put on the screen? Like, this makes no sense. This is where the twins and no, it's so bad. And it's not the only one. I think that's the problem with, I think, with what you're saying too. It runs so deep and so broad with incompetence, inexperience. I don't know how to save it. And
well, it's not even.
These are so much further below even the things that you were saying. I'd rather sit through Dark World than watch Loki again.
Yeah, and it's not just that too. It's like, okay, you had misses in the first 10 years. I mean, okay, you had Iron Man 2. You had, well, Iron Man 3 was okay. It just wasn't great.
Yeah.
But you also had some just awesome hits, man. You had Ant-Man, which ended up being way better than I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
So much better. You had all 3 Captain America movies, which were awesome. All 3 of those were good. Mm-hmm. None of those were bad.
Guardians
1 and 2, awesome films. Yeah. I love those to death. Those are my favorite Marvel movies, and that's from a property that largely nobody even knew about.
Yeah, I know. I have to give my son credit. He called it. He said it's going to be great. Look, Ironcaster, he joined us here. Let's get him in here, and
hey,
he can discuss his love of Marvel too. How are you, my friend? It's great to get to know you, and thanks for jumping in.
Hey, Iron.
Not a problem, guys. Thank you for inviting me.
Hey, we're piling on Marvel and Disney right now. How much of those shows do you love?
Piling on Marvel and Disney is a favorite pastime of, I think, many of us in this little sphere of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want it to be. Like I try to tell people, I says I didn't hate WandaVision until like the end. You had like the last 3 episodes, but then the ending was just brutal. Same with Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's a mess, but I'm like, I didn't hate it until the end. Loki, I hated from the episode 1. But these shows are so bad; they're being run by so many inexperienced people. Like, how much have you consumed or even entertained yourself with post Endgame, Ironcaster?
Well, I feel like I've essentially for myself broken the whole FOMO for Marvel, where it's really a matter of if it has any interest to me, I'm going to see it. So yeah. I saw a total of 1 episode of WandaVision.
Okay.
And then I saw Spider-Man.
See, Spider-Man, it's poor Spider-Man. He showed up the other 3 movies without even trying. It was so sad. My wife she loved it. And she wouldn't even have gone to any of the other 3 movies. She's like, there's no way I'm going to see Black Widow. She has no idea about Eternals. If I had to show her a trailer for Eternals, she went, you can take someone else. And which one am I missing? Oh, Shang-Chi, same thing. She would never have gone to see Shang-Chi.
Okay, I had a war with Simalu. Because he'd get up on Twitter and he'd say stupid shit like, I'm the only Asian, superhero now, and I'm like, excuse me, Bruce Lee, hello.
Yeah, and it wasn't just it's just he also seems like he was oblivious to his thing. It wasn't like he was trolling, I think, fandom. I think he really just seemed like he was very oblivious to that. I don't know. Yeah.
We have a friend, Ironcaster and I do, who also is very big on movies. And his name is Script Doctor.
Yeah,
and Script Doctor actually works in Hollywood. He works with the movies and everything else. He's because he's a script doctor. He writes that stuff. He has told me that since then he says that Simu is kind of like a corporate, like a very much a studio guy, and just kind of does whatever they tell him to do. And it's become apparent, to most of us that a lot of what comes out of these actors' mouths is not necessarily their true opinion on anything, but rather it is the opinion that the studio expects them to present if they want to continue to work.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like the PR departments and the branding and all of that is running a lot of the show in some ways. Which again, though, I think makes me go back around to why would Simu, his PR and stuff, be that oblivious? But again, they're not fans or they're not even passive consumers of the material. So, what do you guys looking at as far as news topics and things like that? You look at things like day to day. You get off work, you're at home, trying to relax. Certain sites, or is it like, are you guys really like me, where it seems like a lot of stuff starts at YouTube and kind of works itself back?
Probably Twitter and YouTube are my biggest sources. Although when we do get to the end of the week, I am usually checking out Bounding into Comics just to recap what happened.
Yeah,
because they're a great source for everything. And of course, during the week, we also have stuff that pops across our feed that definitely pops some rivets. Like today, they just announced for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition that the Radiant was it the Radiant City, the Radiant Pool, whatever crap they're calling this new Radiant, whatever. Yeah. Or the Prismatic, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, they announced up on Twitter, they said, this new product that is coming out that will explore all these different genres of cultures inspired by real world people. And all of this is written by Black and brown people.
Oh, yeah. Let's read this. I see it.
Yeah.
That is insane. That is insane.
So I'm kind of like, oh, that's very nice. You managed to tokenize Black and brown people with your product, and also simultaneously use them as a selling point to try to sell your stuff. Yeah, Radiant Citadel. Yeah.
Bear in mind, just looking at this article, Polygon being a prime example, we've barely got the word of an anthology before the rest of the sentences immediately falls into the
Black and brown authors. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the photo. That's so unappealing to me. All these. Well, this is the comic book syndrome too. It's like all the pastels and the purples and light blues. It's like it doesn't look remotely like what I think of when I think of Dungeons and Dragons. I just don't.
No.
And then when you come down, oh geez. Okay, so during the presentation for the press, design co-lead Ajit George said that the product grew out of his experience working as a freelancer designer on D&D publisher Wizards of the Coast in 2020. George was part of a diverse collection of writers involved in creating Van Richten. I mean, I was saying that Richten or Richten Guide to
Ravenloft. And that was a terrible book also.
Again, these pastels and colors.
Yeah. Well, okay. All the artwork now is corporate. It is Wizards of the Coast approved and designed and supposed to be made to appeal to a mainstream audience. So what is gone is the old warmth and charm of the illustrations from previous editions, unfortunately.
My God, I hate this condescending stuff. He says, this person says later, the Radiant Citadel was meant to give players a real hope. I hate that. I hate it when there's that arrogance that they know everything and you don't know anything. It's just, I can't stand it. God, they're so full of themselves. Wow. I have to give them, well, I'm not finding Black and brown like as often as they normally do. Normally within a title, it's in the article like 7 times and it's only in a couple. But yeah,
You
penned
you can
exclusively by Black and Brown.
you can read it actually in his Twitter tweet. He had like a 7-tweet long thing that was gushing about this, talking about his own culture and everything else. And
he says, I couldn't shake the idea of a whole book written by Black and Brown writers inspired by their own culture, myth, and story. Why? What is wrong with these people?
I have
who
no
sits
idea.
around thinking about it? Is so strange, the mental disorder that has permeated these people. Like, it's just nuts.
I can definitely elucidate on it for you, but I do want to point out really quick too that one of our fellow panelists on Week in Geek, Grim Jim, has already thrown a video out about this and why it is racist to begin with. But part of the deal is the modern gaming crowd is very much all about self-insertion. Okay, I don't know what your role-playing experience is, but
don't even count anything that I have done to entertain myself amongst the role players like yourself.
Okay.
I was like the guy that would just go to hang out and usually try to figure out if there was a woman that showed up that she could go home with me when I was a kid. And that was pretty much the only enticement I had, and they were very few and far between. So
yeah, for gamers,
it wasn't my scene. So
okay,
you know.
well, okay.
But it's okay. No judgment, because I was doing movies and stuff instead. So it wasn't like I was not a nerd or a geek. It was just different.
Right. All right. Well, the deal is like, okay, when you play a role playing game, you roll up a character who is supposed to be different from yourself, especially if you're playing something like that is an entirely different race, like an elf or a dwarf or something like that.
It's fantasy for a reason.
It's fantasy for a reason. The trend, unfortunately, these days is because the kids lack imagination, they tend to self-insert. So they are not comfortable unless they're playing a character that is more or less like they are. And that means whether they're confined to a wheelchair or having various ailments and disabilities or, gender issues, whatever. And then they put a coat of paint over it, which is called a race, because that's all it is a coat of paint. Now it's a skin suit that they wear, because long gone is the actual racial differences. I mean, a tiefling is no longer any different than, an elf or anything else as far as these people are concerned, because they have neutered all that out. So basically it's a skin suit. Look at me. I'm a person with horns and red skin now. How fabulous for you.
And part of that you can even look at down to get a little nerdy on it. You go down to the art design of the books. Whereas in the earlier editions, you would have these characters who look like they were in well over their heads. And then you go to look at some of the more modern art. I was kind of going through looking at some of the later editions, and gone are these characters who look like they are in mortal peril. It's now you have a like 5'3", dark skinned elf who looks like the big giant dragon with teeth the size of her is a minor inconvenience to her.
Right.
And with the modern rules, it kind of is.
It's funny we went full circle, because when I was ranting about Miss Marvel earlier, before you guys jumped in, it was like, the self-insertion by Sana Amanat with Miss Marvel is so apparent, and it's like it's a sort of like being a Pakistani Muslim only in name, and I'm a very devout Christian myself, but I don't really want to just read Christian only material, and not that there's a ton out there, but it's like that would be the last thing I'd be interested in. I'm not going to change. Like if I got a job tomorrow and writing Batman, it's not going to be like how to make him religious. Like that makes just no sense. I see myself as Bruce Wayne, but I need more of myself, not the character. It's still a thing or a topic that I'm still having a hard time getting my head around, the mental disorder and the narcissism that's associated with all of this, because it's all of these different products. It's why we're seeing race swapping, gender swapping, sexuality swapping, and my God, it's endless. It's like we're on the slope of the mountain; it just keeps coming. And it's great. You guys have really brought a lot to my caught the streams, went back and watched a few more, saw some videos. I was like, man, and I know the gamer stuff's been around for a while. I've heard of Gamergate. I know a little bit about all that and stuff, but I did not know that. I didn't know D&D books were pastel. That was crazy. I couldn't believe that cover. I would never have thought that. But again, I read Miss Marvel's comic book, so.
And if you want to know about Gamergate, Grim Jim was directly involved with all that.
Okay.
So right. he actually, it's funny how we met. I originally caught one of his streams because I'd been following him for a while, and you know, he talked about how he had pretty much been harassed and tried to be canceled and everything else, you know, like 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and they still kept coming after him. So at the time, my friend Fat Steven Segal was doing a series of videos on cyberbullying and things like that. And I said, hey, Fat Steven, this guy would be perfect for us to talk to. Plus, I'm already a big fan of his. So we approached Jim, and he was like extremely, you know, outgoing, and he wanted to talk and tell his story and everything else. We got him on Fat Steven's channel, and we got to talk to him. And I actually found I really liked the guy, so I kind of hit it off with him and became a friend, and started inviting him to my Week in Geek show as a panelist, and he became a regular. And
that's him, right? Grim Jim. Did I get it right?
That's him.
Oh yeah,
there's you.
Yeah, that's our Grim.
He's fantastic, man. Some really good stuff. I'll check out this D&D video as well. That's good stuff.
He not only talks about just D&D. He is very much all about, you know, politics, the state of things, and various things. He's very much on the left side, which is fine because I'm a bit on the left myself. But you know, he's a general. He's a great guy, and definitely somebody you would want to get to know.
Yeah, man. I think this is really. And folks, I just, you know, it's like I said, I want to introduce you to these folks because I just, you know, really, and I hate it sounds cliche, and anyway, fell in love with it. You know what I mean? I just really enjoy, because YouTube's just really changed everything for me, because it's just like I find myself watching the older movies on some of the streaming services, and I'm watching YouTube, and it's like there's no room. I have no interest for like having Hulu and Paramount or any of this newer content. I just don't care like at all. They've lost me. And I've even told people, I did a review. I didn't even do a review. I did a non-review of the movie called The 355 because it popped up as free. And I got through like 40 minutes of it or so. I was like, it can't even get me through the movie. Like, it was so bland. I just didn't care. You have all these famous actresses completely not being used or just walking around. There's no smile. There's no sensuality. You don't care. Just dumb premise after dumb premise. Oh, movie was, again, I can't bash the whole movie because I didn't watch the whole movie, but I couldn't get through it. And I have two others that I've started and I cannot. They're just so bad. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'd rather just watch something old. So,
well, I mean, kind of a benefit, a blessing of this. Sorry, let me put that on silent. One of the blessings out of this whole thing is it's essentially forced us to go back and rediscover a lot of classic cinema, to go find new genres. I mean, as an example, I'm now watching a lot more of the Japanese Sentai stuff. You know, your Ultraman, your Kamen Rider, your Power Rangers.
Oh, yeah.
And I am having I feel like I've kind of rekindled some hope for entertainment.
Yeah.
Like over the last years, I mean, shows like the 355 have come and gone, and it just seems like so much is so depressing with the media now. And here's a show I found about a basically a superhero who's giving hope to people, about to give into despair and their inner demons. And it's like, where's this? It's like, it's a short show. It's 30 minutes. It's not trying to go full soap opera melodrama.
Right. Yeah. No, I think I couldn't agree more. Actually, I think think one of the shows I was mentioning, they were talking about it, and it was the live action Star Blazers, and it was like an hour and 50 minutes or whatever on YouTube for free. I earmarked that to watch. So it's like, couldn't agree more. It's like just venturing out into all these different. I did a quick little take on the new Scream movie as well. These things pop up for free on these streaming services or whatever. Like it's free, I'll watch it. Yeah, whatever. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna watch the old ones. I'm gonna watch all the Scream movies. And I was never a huge fan of Scream, but almost in retrospect, their appreciation of the old horror films kind of made me enjoy them so much more. And I'm like, wow, that sure is gone. Half these things they're talking about would be canceled by today's standards. And I think that's exactly what you're saying, Ironcaster. It's like, okay, well, let's go a little bit broader and deeper. We're listening to people. I love the people that are doing like retro reviews where they're watching stuff from the 80s and things like that, talking about good movies and whatever and things like that. And I got to do more of that. I got to find that connection a little bit, do more of that kind of stuff, because that's definitely my nexus era from that kind of stuff. So
ditto.
Yeah.
In fact, most of my films are from the 80s and the 90s. Because that was good cinema. I mean, it's like I've been making this joke more and more now, and it seems to be catching fire because, I keep saying it's like we need to bring cocaine back to Hollywood.
Something. I don't know if it's the lack of coke or something's going on in the water.
I'm telling you, man, that's what it is. It's like, okay, they took the cocaine out of Hollywood and films went to crap because half of the really fun 80s and 90s movies were completely made by directors and producers who were just out of their minds on cocaine. I mean, look at Maximum Overdrive by Stephen King. It was Stephen King's first only film that he ever directed, and he was out of his mind on coke the entire time.
Yeah, he's lost his mind in other ways now, and it's brutal. So let me ask you guys about another sort of interesting circle or niche that I've kind of gotten myself into. And you've seen the comic books behind me. I never graded my comic books until recently because some of the prices were so insane. I was like, I can't leave that kind of money on the table. But the crowdfunding of comic books and this sort of like independent movement and stuff has really exploded through, Indiegogo and Kickstarter. So like, you guys plugged in any of that yet? You got anybody that you recommend or you like a lot?
Go ahead. Sure.
No, as far as comics grading?
No, not grading, just comic books that you'd recommend. So basically, I really kind of unplugged, like I told you earlier, I think about the comic book stuff.
Right.
And, let me bring FS in. Oh man, I got them all. It's like royalty up in here.
I don't know what I'm doing here. They bribed me with.
They bribed you? Yeah.
I invited you.
No, there it is. I got FS in the house.
You'll get your pop later.
I was expecting a pop figure. I'm kind of offended.
Oh yeah, I guess I could turn off the camera.
I went full culture on you right now. I'm now culture.
A big disappointment seeing my face.
No, not really, dude. Thank you for dropping by the chats. I've seen you in the streams once in a while.
I'm lurking a lot more than I can comment because like I said, I listen. It's replaced everything for me at work, and I can listen pretty much the whole time, but I can't always comment or remark. You know what I mean? And it's been good getting to know a lot of different folks and a lot of different arenas, covering different content.
Can I apologize live for you at work and me swearing, and hopefully no one else heard me swearing when I go off? All right, good.
I've always.
Thank God! Because I'm like, why are you swearing? I'm just like, because it's my channel. Shush.
Yeah. Well, and I was talking. I told him earlier. I try to run a PG-13 operation for a lot of reasons, but it doesn't really faze me, and I don't edit stuff out. But I'm
not gonna swear now.
Okay, yeah, you got to behave. I've heard you go on your crazy rants. I have to ask you to throw some water on you. But I was just talking about the comic book nonsense because what happened was when I dove back in, because I said, I'm going to grade my comic books. Man, I haven't read comic books in a while. I only read, and all I found was garbage after garbage.
Oh, yeah.
And then I found Kickstarter and Indiegogos, and I'm like, man, there's some good stuff. These are some of these guys are the guys, or I shouldn't say guys.
Let's hope my camera works.
The folks that I just fell in love with. And I remember I interviewed, this is so funny because someday I'll talk to him again. Oh, look at this. What am I looking at?
This is my office, bro.
Of love. You have the whole man cave thing going on there.
He does.
Good for you, bro. So we moved. So again, pandemic, backstory of Pops. That's some sweet stuff.
The Pops, I have about 10 grand worth collection from like 2012 when they first started, in like 2010.
Wow.
Good. I got rid of them.
So during the pandemic, my wife kind of got the family. They kind of like ganged up and the whole tide turned. She's like, I really want to move. to the woods, have a farm. And I'm like, the family's not going to leave because we had 3 houses. We all kind of live close together. Held a family meeting. They all basically voted, yes, we're going to move. Long story short, by the end of 2020, sold 3 houses, bought 30 acres, moved the whole families, and live in the middle of nowhere. So where you're seeing behind me is the remnants of me being in my dad's office, which is where I am when I work in town because I have to work in the city still, my healthcare job. So you're seeing just random nonsense. I don't have any reason to decorate here. I put up a few things, so it's not quite as embarrassing. But I had sort of the man cave thing going on until we moved. But yeah, that was some sweet stuff. It's like Nerdrotics too. We got to give SFS some credit there. That's pretty good stuff.
Thank you. I call it the room of never getting laid. It's like it's from the lore of Mordor.
Listen, caution though. I've had this happen. You bring someone, they get excited, they think that they know stuff about comic books or movies or whatever, and then they go open something. So I've had that happen. I had someone open, like, again, back when we were buying comic books in the 80s, $100 comic book, pops the bag board open, starts reading it. She's got it pulled taut, and I'm like, well, there goes the whole. And I'm just sitting there looking like, and I think I paused long enough. She's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I think you need to leave. I was just devastated because you know how hard it was when we were younger because okay, for the nerds that don't know, there weren't comic books and there weren't eBay and all these things to make it easy to find things. You could find something you wanted and none of the shops that lived near you would have them. And you were waiting for conventions and things like that so people could bring the stuff that you wanted. So $100 comic book was not easy to replace, not just because money, it didn't exist in your town.
Okay, I got a comment on this, and I think these two guys will agree with me after they hear
I
it.
won't.
Yeah, you will.
No.
Don't be a contrarian, you fat bastard. But
Why
okay,
am I here?
because I invited you because Pops needs your support.
Oh.
Are you saying you're making me sound like a foundation for?
I'm propping you up.
He is underneath me, holding me up.
You're my prop, Fat Steven. I love you, but you're my prop.
It's like he could be ornament. I'm not sure what's happening over here.
Thank God I finished off a 740 milliliter bottle of can of beer because otherwise that would happen.
But
So I hit him with respect. I'm sorry, I forgot it's PG-13. Hit him.
Yes,
with respect.
hit me with respect.
Two by
Okay.
four.
All right. Well, I'm an original weeaboo from way back before that was actually a term. Because I was into all things Japanese, including Japanese anime, Sentai, all that stuff, way before that was like a cultural thing. And at that time, the only way you could get anime was if somebody had been stationed overseas and they came back and they had just happened to bring VHS tapes. So our most common method was to meet up and swap tapes if you knew somebody. And then eventually the anime convention started making that easier and easier. And then more and more stuff from Japan started infiltrating its way in. And then the big anime boom of the 90s started coming in. And
but back then when you were doing that, we were making copies. So my uncle came back and brought a beta. So a lot of his stuff was on beta. We were transferring them over to VHS and trading that way.
We were doing that too. That's exactly what we were doing.
Hardcore, man. I haven't watched some of that stuff in years because I don't have any of that anymore. I don't have a lot of it anyway. So yeah that's great.
But that's the thing. It didn't start becoming available commercially until the 90s, and then what was trickling in from the 90s was very select anime pieces and things.
Sure.
And
mainstream.
Yeah.
Didn't manga video and like things like Blockbuster actually have like their mail to order service? Like you would get a manga video that have like an anime film or a manga film, like to have like Cam FDM doing the promotions of like Ultra Play and have all that stuff, and then you would find out how to order in their 1-800 number direct to your house.
Yeah, that was mid 90s. I remember the first time I bought Fist of the North Star on VHS, it was that way because they had replaced the soundtrack with someone else at the beginning. Instead of the original Japanese. And that's also when they were dubbing a lot too. But this is kind of what I saw starting to happen as more and more of that stuff started making a foothold and more people were buying it and getting into it. The availability became so saturated to the point where we no longer had to work hard to get the stuff that we wanted to. We didn't have to trade the tapes and all that. And on the one hand, I thought that was a wonderful thing at first, but now we're to the point where we have generations who have grown up without having to struggle to get the stuff that they want. They've always had easy access to it, and so therefore there's maybe not as much of an appreciation for it as what we had to deal with in getting it. And I think it's been the same with the comic books and old things like that. I mean, do you guys disagree with me, or?
No, I think you're 100% right. I actually did a video, one of my early Pops videos. I kind of made a comment about Funko. Someone asked me about a Funko, and I said, well, the moment that they showed up in Walmart was your death nail in the Funko craze, because now they're just like so mass produced, overproduced. People are buying them at $8 to $10 a piece, thinking they have a collectible, and there's like thousands of those in the East Coast. So it's not worth anything. It's like open it up and enjoy it.
That is the truth to a certain point, but if you have the stuff, let's say from the later stuff, like not like 5,000 piece, but limited stuff, you would only get
stickers and some rare ones,
like chase versions and stuff like that, like what I have. You like I sold like what was it, like 8 or 11 of my chase figures because I wanted the money, and the guy came by my house and dropped $2,500 cash in my lap.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I sold a lot of my limited ones like that even the Walmart ones, because I'd find the way to get the nice ones, put them in plastic, and just keep them. A few months later, they'd be rare enough and flip them. But man, you got 10 grand in Funkos. Can't imagine what that room is worth.
I gotta get rid of them. I want them gone. I want them all gone, except for my Spider-Mans, but I want them gone.
We gotta have a liquidation sale at FS's house. That's good.
I hope for your sake they didn't hit that.
Like the original first edition He-Man sets and stuff like that. And
oh yeah. Yeah. No, I get rid of a lot of my Funko. I don't have very many Funkos left. I took like the weird nostalgic ones that I enjoy. Like a Bob Ross one I would never get rid of. I think one of my daughters gave it to me because she knows how much I love Bob Ross, and some weird ones like that, a Stan Lee one and things like that. They're more for like nostalgia and my love of them than they would be worth anything. So, Ironcaster, you've been quiet. Are you a anime collector and all of that too? Got this memories of the struggle is real, my friend. We're out there trying to pound the sidewalk, finding the things that we loved as nerds.
Oh yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm in my lower 30s.
Okay.
And so I kind of grew up in that sort of that kind of opening waves of the anime, kind of the accessibility becoming much more easy to come across for that. And also comics becoming so I don't want to say so mainstream, because they were always very popular, but where a lot of that became much more widely accepted by the normies.
Yeah, but I think the 90s is, and again, you guys will kind of verify me here on this. I think what happened is once the Batman movie landed in 89, there become this incredible interest in the comic book market. And simultaneous to this, there was this overproduction happening in sports cards, and the card industry kind of came in as well. So the early 90s created this crazy money-chasing boom and overproduction in those two markets. You would have sports card comic book guys popping up in like a Sears. It's like you would just find stuff. Every city had like 8 to 10 stores, and it was nuts. And anime was being sucked into that slowly. But like you said, by the time you got to like 95 to 98, the conventions were big. The conventions were regular. There were stores everywhere. They were definitely testing the waters with the Japanese market in indie comic books. I mean, I can't even remember seeing an original Ninja Turtle for the first time and then seeing them just in mass production. It was so fast. It was like a relic on a wall, and then suddenly they were everywhere.
I do have the actual foot tall Leonardo the original one. I don't have his swords anymore, but a buddy of mine was moving, and I still have that one. You know which one I'm talking about, like the oversized Ninja Turtles? I have like the full Cops DVD set signed by Dr. Bad Vibes. I have a whole bunch of stuff, but I mostly collect the stuff, for resale eventually. But because with Funko, it was there. If it wasn't for Funko, I wouldn't have gone back into comic books. And it gave me that time to go back into cons, get a little bit more dealing with my agoraphobia and dealing with big crowds and anxiety. And then the lockdowns came again, and how comics were changing. And then I stopped collecting again. But I still have those memories in a long box of Harley Quinn and Harley Quinn Power Girl comics. I'll never give up.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey with the comic book stuff. I mentioned the Kickstarter Indiegogo stuff. You can see the She comic book there, Billy Tucci. I just got that from them, and it's kind of
I think I've got that on my shelf.
It's an omnibus, and I met Billy way back in, I think, the early 90s and 2000s. He'd be at conventions regularly. He was just such a nice man. And I remember reaching out to them about it and whatever, and I'm still hoping to get an interview with him, be able to spend some time kind of peeling back, because he's done all sorts of stuff in his life.
Dude never answers my Twitter mails, though, man.
Oh, well, I can't divulge the private email line, and I'll be in so much trouble with his wife. But it's fun seeing, and I know Ethan Van Sciver has almost become like a caricature with his Comicsgate radio show and all the different creators like that. But it's just fascinating seeing so much more finally come to light. Because when I talked to Ethan back in 2003, I think it was, he was railing on Marvel shows, people stopped watch around to hear what he was ranting about, and it was about them being cheap, them cheating people. He had other creators start ranting about, oh yeah, they made this board game and they didn't give me any residuals for this character I created. I'm like, whoa, nobody knows how bad this is. I mean, people know all these stories, but they didn't know it was that bad. And now it's everywhere.
When Ethan talks, even now when you're listening to him, he has a great way of delivering his wording. Mm-hmm. He sounds very businesslike, but also very kid-like at the same time, because he's trying to hit that childlike love of comics. And the way he delivers that and everything, the way I listen to him, it grabs you. You can't stop watching till the show's over, because he's able to not only give his personal opinion, but he's able to give his history at the same time. And then when you're looking at stuff like Cyberfrog being drawn in real time, you're like, holy crap. And it's that whole 80s action figure and 90s action figure creation all coming over again. And that's one thing I give respect with EBS. There's some things about him that just, you want that type of delivery with people that you can discern for yourself. And it's not an easy art to do.
No, it's not. Praise God for YouTube.
Also, to kind of get back to kind of bring this back around to something we were kind of pointing at earlier. I mean, with shows like EVS doing his Comicsgate basically talk show, it's like there's nothing on TV that can compete, because it's like either half all the reality shows are just all fabricated and scripted, or it's just these talk shows that will go and basically pander or try to push politics in one direction. It's like this is just over here. They do have their biases, sure, but they're trying to preserve the love of a niche hobby.
Well, and I'll say for me, one of the appeals, and again, I've met many of these guys, and a lot of these folks are very genuine in their own right. And what's come to light is they are encouraging each other. I've heard Ethan basically tell people, get yourself a YouTube channel, live stream, draw, talk to people, whatever. Now you see Aaron Lopresti and John Malin, and you see all of them doing their own thing as well, following his lead on those kinds of things. And then you see other tiers of different artists and creators doing that as well. Twitter has connected a lot of that. And I have to be honest, I gave up on Twitter 2 or 3 times. I purged everything. I don't even know if I have any followers. I'm definitely not near 1,000. I just erased it all because the vitriol, again, after I was also writing a lot of politics and stuff at different times. You go where the paying gig is sometimes, and I just purged it all. But now I figured out, and you guys are part of that, where I'm following your stream, you're recommending each other, you're recommending videos, and I was down a rabbit's hole of listen, I can really find some positives in all of this, and it's basically like a networking tool to find information and people. And man, it's been so cool having you guys on here. We've gone over 2 hours. Man, this is awesome.
One of my favorite genres on YouTube are we could say the reaction channels. People who are watching, who have seen a show for the first time, or those kind of it's and with a lot of them, it's even going back and grabbing, I've never seen someone to say I've never seen Maximum Overdrive and we'll watch it for the first time. Here's my thoughts.
That'd be so awesome.
And some of my most viewed videos were when I got a little panel together to talk about some old Hammer horror movies.
Oh man, I just sold my trading card set of those. I couldn't say no to the price. I was like, oh man, I gotta let it go. It was so good though, and I went through them one last time before I packed them up. Went through them all one by one. Every picture of Christopher Lee, all of it. I just couldn't. It was hard to say goodbye, but sometimes you just gotta let it go. Gotta let it go. So, man, Hammer, you made a Hammer reference, man. That's awesome. That's great. You guys, that's awesome. My wife's gonna be like, "Wow, the nerd community just keeps growing around me." I'm like, "Yep, that's the plan." I don't have any more
almost like we
topics.
love
You
these
right.
things.
Yeah, it's so funny and she's been so supportive because it's just been crazy. And here's a snapshot I'll share with you guys. Look, behind the scenes, folks didn't see all this before. All the stuff getting packed, getting graded. Those are the boxes are graded. They're already posted on eBay or wherever. And it's just been nuts. And there's always stuff. And like I said, I live in a farm, so I can't even have some stuff delivered. I had them throw stuff over a fence one time, leaving it. Could have gotten rained on. I don't know. It's a mess. I was like, oh, so I had to like change all that. I had to have a post office box, have stuff shipped to dad's. It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, the world has changed so rapidly. Do you think there's a new normal with the pop culture stuff, or you think that because this is still all so fluid with the woke sort of intersectional virus going through it, that we're still not quite at a reset point? Or do you think we're still ebbing and flowing? Or what do you think is going to kind of, I don't know. What do you think about, Steven?
I just don't look at woke no more. My content was usually gaming, and then I got changed over when things started happening in Canada. And now I've covered the US stuff, and I'm starting to learn how my commentary works. But I'm at the point now where I'm not looking for woke.
No,
I'm pretty much looking if it's good or bad. Like I said with Batman, I might have to watch it again, but I was bored. I was so fucking sorry.
You're fine. T-shirt, what do you think? How does it ebb and flow for you, man? You think we gotta? What do you think our time scale? I don't know if it turns around or not. I'm still hopeful. Money matters more.
I think we are starting to see. I think we are starting to see kind of like the SJW woke element start to dissipate just a little bit in some circles because I mean the fact that in every aspect of fandom we have had a big success story and Hollywood is like, what? How did they do that? And they can't believe. Okay, like we had Spider-Man: No Way Home, big hit, hero movie, and everybody's kind of like trying to figure out why that's a big hit now. Yeah. And I was like, well, because it was trying to tell a story. They weren't trying to get political and stuff. They just went out and told a story.
And I think it'll depend if Doctor Strange does well, because we know that they've gone back and done enough reshoots to gimmick it to try to seem like they're going to pull at those same elements. And if it doesn't succeed, they're going to be scratching their head again. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think so. But
I think Doctor Strange is going to be pretty safe considering it's coming off. It's the first thing following up after Spider-Man.
It's Raimi, so it should be good.
Yeah. It's got a lot of sort of bullet points that are going to help it out.
Yeah. Still see it as a bait and switch, my friends. Still see it's all about Scarlet Witch. Yeah, and the thing was for me that I just totally cringe is simultaneous to that movie coming out is when the comic book completely shifts to she Doctor Strange, right? They've killed her. He'll be dead. It's a new female Doctor Strange. It's like it's still just muddied water poisoned with this, third wave feminist stuff. I hope. I mean, Doctor Strange is just a great character. They barely even tapped into how cool all that stuff is. So, all right, guys. I have to feed. I have to eat. My day has been long, so I got to eat a dinner.
Okay.
Man, it's been awesome though.
Yeah, I came in late, but as you can see, I brought friends to make up for it.
Look, it's been fun. I had no agenda. I have no plans. I make notes and stuff to kind of something I don't get totally lost or whatever. But it's been great to chat with you guys. Hopefully we can do it again.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm working a lot more than I say. Saturdays are tricky because I'm on the farm. So my problem with that is I'd have to be on my phone, and I haven't even tested whether or not how well that'll play out. But yeah, I'd love to do your Saturday thing sometime. We'll figure it out. There'll be some day that'll work for that.
Sure.
But, you guys can always reach out, put you on the calendar, figure something out.
All right.
Well, folks, I'll put some. I got a lot of work to do because I got to get all these guys' socials in the descriptions. I get all that updated and reloaded and stuff. So we'll do some of that editing. And again, thank you for all. I'm really enjoying, and I will be honest. Fat Steven, I've followed a lot of your stuff for quite a while now, and this convoy stuff, man. Kudos to you for just dive deep into just passion and honesty. because that's been some great stuff. And
Thank
T-shirt
you.
doing great shows. And Ironcaster, I haven't got to a lot of your content yet, man, but I got to get in there and swim around a little bit and find out.
All right.
I am happy I got the appeal though, so that copyrights the guideline strike and my warning has been reinstated.
That's awesome.
Good job on that, dude.
That's the
Saw
way
that
to
earlier.
keep at it. Keep at it. Thinking about it, man. It's good stuff. So, folks, great folks, great community. I'm not sure I should be using those terms anymore, but I don't care. I don't know what to say anymore. But great folks, and YouTube is definitely evolving and changing. It's great to meet new people, and can't thank you enough for you guys spending time with us.
Thanks. It's our pleasure. Or at least mine. I can't